Hello, this is Brian Foster, and I'm live streaming to you on October 11th, 2021. And today we're again on every Monday that we have been doing lately. This is, I think, the ninth Monday we've started this. This is question and answers about Spiritism. So please put your question, put your comments as you're listening to this live stream. Put your comments on there, and I will attempt to answer them to the best of my ability. Now, before we begin, let's start with a, a prayer to open our session. This is very trying times. And I want to say, dear Lord, please give strength and moral help to all those people who are making difficult decisions in their life when they are confronted with corruption and tyranny and being given instructions to do things that go against their own moral and their own upbringing and what they think is logically best. Give them strength to do what they think is right and to know that whenever a door closes and someone makes the right choice, heaven and the spirit world and Jesus and the angels watching over them opens another door for them. Amen. Okay. Now, again, before I begin this, I would just like to say, put your questions on the comments. And if you are interested in Spiritism, I would go to my blog, nwspiritism.com, and download Spiritism 101, the third revelation. It is on PDF. It's 100 pages or a little bit less than 100 pages, and it's free. Of course, you can also get it on Kindle and paperback and Audible. And we have our first person on, Simply Luciani. Hello. Oh, and then Nebula says, thank you for this question and answer format. So I'm happy to explore whatever you like to explore. I have some preset questions. If I don't get any other questions, I start going off into those. So if I have no questions now, let me give you a couple more minutes. There's a lot happening. The world is in an interesting place, and I hope everybody enjoys it because, when you look around you and you see all these, whatever side of the fence or whatever you think is we are on this campus called Earth, and we're here to learn. Okay, here's our first question. What's the best way to be loving without being a doormat? Now, that is an excellent question. That's an excellent question, and it's not easy. So, one of the things is how to control your primitive emotions. And when we say, you're a doormat, means you just kind of do whatever that person says, and usually you do whatever that other person says because you are afraid of their emotional response. And there was this great section in one of Andre Luis's books talking about anger and indignation. And what they told us is, you as a spiritist, you don't have to be pushed around, right? But then when we think about we're being pushed around, we think about fighting back with anger. They said, no, don't, because once you release anger, you release these primitive emotions, and you affect not only yourself but everyone else around you. But you can use indignation. What indignation is, you say, no, I'm not going to do that for you, and this is why. And then you've got to control your voice because the voice is very important coming out. But keep your voice calm and steady, and say, no, I'm not doing that, or you need to learn this on your own. And this is what you do with your children as they get older. Like, one of my children's, is getting older and late teenage years, and it's like, okay, here are here are here's some adult decisions. It's not like the old days where you can make decisions and there's no repercussions. Now I'm making sure she has repercussions because she has to learn repercussions. So the answer is no, and this is why I'm saying this is going to help you in the long run. So I think that's the way of loving, without being a doormat, is to calmly explain your situation, what you will and will not put up with, because everyone has a right not to put up with things. And if that person, doesn't like it, well, they can explore the rest of the world and see if it's better. God bless them. We're here on earth for a learning experience. So I hope that helps. Okay, this is simply Luciani. Could you talk about haunted dolls? Well, and then there's also when it says good spirits attached to dolls. So it must be good and bad spirits attached to dolls. So there is, and especially when we come to Brazil, my wife and I come to Brazil, and there is, there's a group of Mukambo, what they call them, and it's probably not pronouncing this right, but it's more of people talking to spirits, but it's like the old voodoo days, right? Where people, are make bad, like evil eye and all those things, and there's some reality to this because you can get low and ignorant spirits to go bother people for you, um, if you like, by talking to them, by sacrificing something to them, or just for their own amusement. And so a good spirit won't really be attached to a doll per se, right? A higher spirit, one who understands the spirit world, the spirit realm, they will not be attached to the doll. They'll communicate with you above board. Now, there may be what you consider to be a doll, and that you think it may communicate to you, but it is a lower spirit that is using that persona or using that misperception to try and trick you in thinking that it is talking through that doll, but it's just a representation. It's like exorcism, where you see these priests will put water on a person and say, be gone, bad spirit. Well, Spiritism tells us that the spirits just laugh at that. That's not the way it works. It's the way it works is that person usually has to have their own inner fortitude by meditation and prayer to say, I'm not going to be affected by your trying to obsess me or bother me. The same thing goes with any other physical manifestation, like a doll or a wax figure. Is sorry, and you can even believe in it. And the problem is that if people believe in this and they believe it affects them, but what you can say is, I have enough power that I will not let that affect me. I know there's spirits around me. I know that thoughts are coming at me. I know thoughts are coming at me, but those negative thoughts, I'm not going to let myself be exposed to that. And oh yeah, so here I practice Mesa Blanca, which is Puerto Rico's uh, is Spiritism, which is the uh, white table, which is you're talking to spirits. And now we know, or you're at a group that there are a group of mediums in front that communicate with spirits. Now, the important thing to remember is that spirits are attracted to the same level of medium, right? So when we have been talking to people who are in these more uh, primitive spirit groups, let's say, they talk to lower level spirits, and they're very jealous of their power. In fact, we talked to this one medium, very good guy, but the spirits around him said, "Don't start reading about spiritism. We want you to go to our practice because we want to communicate through you." And of course, a high spirit would never say that. It'd say, "You have free will. You do what you want, but you'll learn." But we recommend that you read and study about the other side. So again, when there's a medium in these places, and it could be you could be the medium, spirits are attracted to someone on their own level. And if on these groups where there's mediums work with lower level spirits, they'll do like trivial things. They'll say, well, get someone to love me, or where can I find more money? And so you won't see that in a spiritist meeting and with communication. is because they're here, because higher spirits, as I've said many times before, higher spirits will communicate to you like your teacher that you may have hated when you were in sixth or seventh grade that demanded a lot from you. But as you look back and when you're in your 20s, you go, oh, I hated her at the time, but she really taught me how to learn, right? And that's how higher spirits will talk to you. They won't endeavor in small little things of bewitching someone or causing someone to make a bad decision. They won't do that. They'll help guide them on their trials and tribulations, but they won't get down into the nitty-gritty of life's little events. Now there could be exceptions to that. But that is that's the level. So that's why the more you study Spiritism, the more you understand the spirit world per se, the more you understand that you rip out your primitive emotions and replace those with love, charity, and fraternity. And the more your aura will be bright, and then other spirits will become attracted to you, I should say, and they will help you and assist you in your endeavors. When you pray for something good, not when you pray for something bad. Don't do that, because that's as I'm sure you already know, that can boomerang effect on you. So that is, I think, is important. So I hope that answered your question, but please ask me more if not. Okay, we have another question from Mr. Megamat X. Speaking of that, is it ever permitted for someone like a prophetic clairvoyant to express anger or use cuss words when at their breaking point? Sort of like when Moses reacted to the gold calf. Well, it's not advised, but humans are humans, and yes, so a clairvoyant can express anger or use cuss words. It doesn't mean that they've lost all credibility or the spirits will never talk to them again. It just means that they lost their composure, and hopefully they recovered from that loss of composure. Remember, and like Moses when he reacted to the golden calf, or when Jesus was in the temple with the money changers. And now I think he expressed, I think he deliberately showed and demonstrated what people it was maybe interpreted as anger, but it was more indignation when he overturned the tables and said, "No, this is not happening," and get out of here. And so to make a point, and I think, and we know, and someone like Jesus or Moses, who is very high level and extremely intelligent, knows that if you want to make a point with someone, if just saying it softly, like, oh, I think you shouldn't, you know, uh, pour over and use this gold calf. This is, we have this new paradigm. Uh, People would have just looked at him and carried on. So he had to be more demonstrative, right? They don't, they would just kept worshiping that false idol. And so therefore, he probably raised his voice. He may not actually been angry, or he might have been angry, right? You never know. But he had to get their attention. And that was a device to get their attention. So it depends on the situation. It's all situational. Okay, how can I get past the loud ringing in the ears and hear the message? Well, this is interesting. So you must be a medium, and you have some sort of like tinnitus in your ears, and you believe that affects your ability to hear the message. Now, remember that you don't hear, or usually you don't, and there could be differences, but many mediums, and I would really recommend you read the Medium's book. Let me put this on the screen real quick. You see this says the Medium's book right here? You can get this in PDF. Allan Kardec, the Medium's book. That will help you a lot in looking about, in reading about, and understanding different types of spirits. So again, I would type in on a search engine Allan Kardec, and just Allan Kardec space PDF, and it will show you. It should bring up results on all of his books, but the medium's book is probably the one you want. But let me go on. So you're really like an audible medium, but your audio ability, you believe, is blocked by your tinnitus. Now, usually what happens is, in order for a spirit to have voice, like to hear it through the ears, where the voice has to have vibration and going through the air and the atmosphere for the sound waves to travel. But that's not how spirits really communicate to us, right? Because you could have visions, and when you hear, it's really through the pineal gland, and that's kind of our doorway to the other side. And therefore, I've known other mediums with this problem, but it doesn't stop them from getting the message because they don't hear through their ears, they hear through their pineal gland, which is thoughts or voices come into their mind. You think you hear it, but you're actually, that's because your mind is, so smart. It's like, well, if I hear it, it must be through my ears. And I don't think that is necessarily true. And therefore, I would recommend you give this a try. You sit and you meditate, and you read about the spirit world. Read, I'm sure you've already done. So I apologize if I'm saying things you've already done. But you sit and you meditate. You think about the spirit world. You think about improving yourself, and that's really think, how can I improve myself? How can I become a nicer, more loving person, charitable, fraternal, and help guide me in this? And meditate at the same time, like Tuesdays at 7 o'clock at night, every week, because then that's when the higher spirits, and when you meditate and you put forth good salt thoughts, and they know you want to improve yourself, you will be noticed, and then they will come and help you. Okay, what are your thoughts on seeing repetitive numbers, 1 1, 10 10, 3 3 3, 12 12, etc.? So they certainly, numbers send messages, and the numbers can mean different things to different people depending on your circumstances. And so I would say that when you see these numbers, because I've seen numbers in dreams, and then I say, oh, okay, I know what that means. And then and I don't want to go in through what each of these means. So you can look those up. But some people think 1111 means, et cetera, and so forth. But I think what it means is those are signs for individuals, for you to know that, either to encourage you to go forward, maybe discourage you for not taking that path. And so I would say, yes, I would say that repetitive numbers are a way of the spirit world to subtly guide you. And they do, sometimes they guide you subtly, and sometimes they guide you like there's like a knock on your head. I remember when I was making a really bad decision, and this is before I found Spiritism. Then I got so sick, I couldn't do anything. I just was stopped. And, it wasn't anything I knew. And then I found Spiritism, and I read about when spirits were trying to stop a person from doing something very harmful to themselves, or a bad decision to take them off their life path. They would make them very sick, so they would have to forget that idea for a while and then be redirected. So that happens to me. So yes, if those numbers mean something to you, it's just like in dreams. When you see visions, dreams, I know there's whole books about interpreting dreams, and they're probably what does a snake mean? What does water mean? But really, to me, when you interpret dreams, it's what your mood is. Are you happy? If you feel good, you feel energized, that means you went to a good place. And when you see a symbol, don't go look up on a dream book. Say, what does that symbol mean to you? Because your brain saw what was going on and interpreted that into some sort of symbol. So it's really is, what does that symbol mean to you? What does water mean to you? And if it was you felt good after the dream, it's like something good most often. Because remember, we're in this 3D world with time as a fourth dimension, with this running along. When you're going into the spirit world, you're in a 4D world, right? And you see time, you see the effect of time, because there is no march of time in the spirit world. So yes, I do believe they certainly are signs and signals. Okay. Do spiritists believe in the virgin birth, Jesus, and how do they view Mary? Okay, so this is interesting because before I was a spiritist, and even during the first part of me being a spiritist, I did not believe in the virgin birth, and you don't see it talked about much. But the more I understand spiritism, and the more I understand um, how, who, and what we are. So first, you have to think who we are, what we are. Right now, we believe we're this physical manifestation, right? And what we see in front of our eyes is what's there, right? It's there. It's the wall is a wall, a book is a book, right? And I have hair, all that. And then you understand about the spirit world where thought is action. You can move at the speed of thought. There's no speed of light. When you want something, you can create it with your mind, and the more you find this out. And then people have had where I've had where people have told me my future, and of course I didn't believe it, and then it happened. It's like, oh, okay, how can you know that? So the spirit world is organized and it's complex. Because if it wasn't, how could they lead us here on Earth? How could they plan our reincarnation? How could they tell us our future, right? Because they have to be doing all these Monte Carlo simulations and see all these different paths, and they'll help guide our paths. So what does that mean? That means the spirit world is this logical, complex entity in which we as spirits are thought, intelligent thought, we're encapsulated thought, and we can go through this uh, this live database, this live universal database of all knowledge. And when we see things, we can decide to see things as data or as the properties of whatever that data is. So we can see like another spirit, we can see them as a spark, or we can see them as Uncle Bob, who's on the same spiritual level as we are, or we see a higher spirit that reflects the love of God, and that they're shining, they look like an angel to us. So think of that for a second. Given that, what is the earth? Well, spirits have told us the earth is a subset of the spirit universe. And we are spirits. And what the earth really is, it's like a simulator. The earth is here, a planet of atonement right now. We are here in order to improve our character and personality. And like any simulator, when a pilot goes through, a pilot doesn't go in a simulator to just always have beautiful takeoff and landings, right? No, they've got all sorts of the engines go out, the runway is populated with birds, or all sorts of things go wrong, right? The passengers rebel. So they're given all these experiences. Well, that's what we go through on Earth. And therefore, the Earth is really a simulator. So if that's the case, which I believe it is, you have to think of yourself that you're in the middle of a video game. And if you're in the middle of a video game, you're an avatar in a video game. And when you're an avatar in a video game, you think you're real, and you think that you're going from point A to point B, and you're walking through a forest, a path across oceans, right? But in actuality, you're not. You're just changing state, because the data in the video game is saying, okay, you're now in a forest and you're moving at a perceived rate of 5 miles per hour. So think of that. Think of that logical. Now, think that you are the master of that game because Jesus is the governor of earth, right? He knows how to manipulate the data. Jesus certainly had the ability to make himself conceive himself inside Mary's womb. You can, you can look at it. You can look at it just from data, like, hey, I'm going to be a live fetus in Mary's womb, and I'm going to give myself the attributes and permissions to be so. Or you can look at it biologically, where he had the power to assemble any type of cells he wanted to create this embryo that he would then use and put in his soul in to populate that, so he could be the physical Jesus. Because after all, when Jesus when the apostles talked that Jesus walked on the water, or when he was another point is when he was in the boat and the waves were crashing and the guys were all scared, and they're saying, and he woke up and said, "What are you worried about?" And the I'm just paraphrasing. And he like made the storm go away. Well, I mean, you can read that if you're a skeptic, like, "Oh, this is just a myth," or you can read that and understand the logical constructs of the Earth, which is a very a simulator beyond our comprehension, because it sure as heck is real to us. And Jesus said, "Okay, well, I'm just going to tweak the environment around this boat right now and say, no storm here, water's calm." Do you see what I'm getting at? That's the power. This is why Spiritism reveals to you that you are in such a fantastic environment beyond your comprehension. What science fiction or fantasy book says that when you're in the land that thought is action and you can create whatever you want? Because if we actually lived that here on Earth, where thought is action, you create whatever we want, we'd have all sorts of undisciplined people that would be destroying houses and doing all sorts of horrible things. But that's why we're here, because you only get more power as you rise spiritually and you rise morally. So you're only allowed to ascend and have extra attributes as you rise, and you are capable of exercising them with thought. And I talk about this in my book, Spirit and the Spirit Universe, book 2 of Spiritism, of who are spirits, how they're trained. Now, so they view Mary as this wonderful person who helped Jesus on earth. And in fact, Mary has a lot of like a NGO, non-government organization. Well, she has hospitals and areas in the lower zone where they help suicides, they help other people, and just other types of people will have like Menendez, the Bazaar de Menendez will have areas to help people, etc. So they view Mary as a very as a wonderful high-level spirit who helps a lot of spirits get better. So I hope that answers the question, because the answer to that question, that's a great question, but you really have to look at yourself and everything else completely different. You are being trained to be this immensely powerful spirit. You can be someone like Jesus someday. Jesus started out like us. That's what Spiritism says. There's spirits higher than Jesus. Now, spirits that I've read about says we are lucky to have Jesus as the governor of our planet, and he's 4 other planets besides. Okay, let me hide that one. Let me answer this one before I get to the other one. Thanks. Do you have a link, or how much is it? There's no cost. I would go to my link. If you want to get in touch with me, I would go to nwspiritism.com, and then I would go onto the About Me and Contact Me section, send me an email, and I'd be happy to arrange. There's no charge for any of this. You don't charge for this stuff. To call by WhatsApp or Skype or whatever, if you'd like to talk to me in person. So again, go to nwspiritism.com, because I don't want to give my email out to everybody. Or you can also message me, like either through Facebook or I think um, I don't know if, yeah, Facebook should work, like DM me or whatever. But yeah, so you can go there and just or send me your email. I'll read that. Sometimes Facebook messages, I get them like 2 months later. It's not very good. But fill out the contact me section. Give me your email. I'll send you an email back. And I talk to a lot of people. We can talk. So I'll be happy. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I would recommend that you download my PDF, Spiritism 101, and then even read the Spirits book by Alan Kardec and the Mediums book, right, for you. I think that would help. Okay, let me oops, what'd I do? Oh, answer the next question. I don't want to get off. Okay, this is for Lucianne and everybody, I guess, on this conversation. Have you ever heard of Muse? I saw an advertisement of it. It's supposedly to monitor your brain waves to keep your mind on track while meditating. You can check that out. No, I'm okay. For me, I've not heard of it, and it's probably something where you can see your alpha waves or something to make sure you're calm, and it might be a good way to focus your mind and keep your mind open uh, for communication to the other side. I don't know. That, I would that would be interesting. Okay, next. This is from something. There are yogis who can walk on water. Yes, in fact, there's this great book, The Autobiography of a Yogi, and it was written, I think, just around World War II. And he talked about yogis that could just they locked one yogi in prison, and then he'd just walk around, just get out of prison because he would just go through walls or whatever. And these are, and of course, it was very interesting. 'Cause I did a video and an article about it, and the yogis would say, "Yeah, we're just light. All we are light," and they could actually look at someone's destiny and make or health and make little changes to it. So again, this is not just spiritism. These are these very advanced spirits who came to India, right? Reincarnated in India, showing people that we are thoughts form, right? Because light is really when they say light, I believe they mean that we're intelligent energy, which we are, right? Because you're a spirit, you are intelligent energy. And in fact, you see here a spirit, a paraspirit, and a body. So a spirit is just this intelligent energy. That's what we are. And you could call that light. I can see why they say that. A paraspirit is what we appear to be to other spirits if they want to see us in that way. And we just decide with our own mind what we want to look like. And then your physical body is just a temporary covering that you have when you're on the simulator called Earth. And it's not that important, but you got to take good care of it, right? Don't drink, don't be an addict of some sort. Like me, my addiction is ice cream. I'm trying to do less of that, but not very successfully. But your body is just this temporary thing. I compare it to go, let's say you're on a ride at Disneyland, right? I know many people know like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And there's, to go on the ride, there's different color cars. There's a red car, there's a green car, black and yellow, pink and purple, whatever cars. So you get on this ride, you go through Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and you get off the car. And that's really what all we're doing. And this body, we're just on this ride for a while. Okay. So that's a good point. Okay. Okay. Yes, I see this other. Yeah, I was commenting about a device. Yes, I saw that, Mr. Mega X. So yeah, so there's in this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, uh, wonderful things that he was talking about that they could do, and again, this is just another independent view of the spirit world. That's why, like on Tuesdays, I go through these books on PDF that are psychographed by mediums from spirits, and saying what their experiences were, and I compare them to the experiences and the knowledge from Spiritism. And again, I've done that also in my books about different NDEs. And, one is the Spirit World Talks to You, 12 NDEs. And so there's always there's a general theme on people's near-death experiences. And this is, the internet's been good and bad in different ways, right? The good part of the internet is allowed people with near-death experiences to say, I'm not this weird person. I actually saw something, and they can compare what they saw to other people. And what they saw is it reinforces what yogis say and what Spiritism says. And remember, all throughout history, from Socrates, Buddha, Zoroaster, Lao Tzu, Confucius, they're all sent under the auspices of Jesus Christ to earth to tell us how we need to behave on earth in order to ascend spiritually. Right? Socrates and I think Buddha, they're like about 400 years before Christ. So these, and that's why always interesting is that a lot of these archaeologists or historians say, well, this religion stole this from that, and that religion stole this from that. And the answer is, well, maybe, but really is that each of these spirits came on earth, your high level spirits incarnate on earth in order to send the same message, but the message had to be tailored to the culture and the time and the technology of the time of that person. Okay. What is your take on the death resurrection of Jesus? Because I kind of like the swoon theory, the idea that Jesus was simply near death and went into spontaneous remission, thus survived. So it's not important because he was just this physical entity. His physical entity did die. Because I guess the swoon theory is that it can explain how he was resurrected 3 days later. But if you follow the fact that thought is action and we are energy, the fact that Jesus is the master of the game, at least around the earth, right? There are spirits higher than him, but he really controls what's happening in the heavens around the earth and the physical plane of the earth. Is that that theory that he was near death, but then he got taken down from the cross and he showed up, 3 days later. I can see where people want that to be because that explains things. But I think that they're looking for a physical explanation where in fact there is a higher explanation of the power of Jesus and the fact that he had that he is energy, that he physically died on the cross. He got rid of his body. He went into where he belonged in heaven at the level he's at. And then when it was time, in fact, this is what Spirit said in the books by Reverend Jiva Owen. I actually talk about that in my book, Heaven and Below. Let me find that one. So what they said about Jesus, they were talking about, and they're giving an example. They're talking about the conception of distance in the spirit world. And they said, there is no distance per se in the spirit world. It's like we think, oh, the earth is so many million miles away from Mars, and there's so many light years from one system to the other. Well, in our physical world, it's set up to be that way for us to perceive distance. But in the spirit world, there is no distance per se because it's all data. And they're either presence or absence. And if you want to put yourself somewhere else, this is why you can travel at the speed of thought. You think of that environment and you put yourself into that environment. Now you can travel through, and this is where it all depends how you want to think of things. You can travel through so you're in heaven. You can travel through and see the different levels of heaven and the lower zone if you'd like to follow that data down the tree to that extent, or you could just pop up where you wanted to pop up and do what you want. So they used the idea of this absence or presence with Jesus. They said, look, when Jesus showed up 3 days later into the room with the apostles, he didn't like, oh, I gotta take a spaceship or I gotta walk down to earth and then I gotta show up in this room. No, that's not what he did. He was in heaven. He said, okay, I'm going to change the state around me. Again, think of it like a video game. I'm going to change the environment. You are an avatar in a video game. I'm going to change the environment from an ocean to inside of a hotel. That's what Jesus said. He changed the environment to where he wanted to be, and he showed up. And I know when I talk like this, people think this is crazy. But when you look at the world and you look at these odd things you see and you can't explain, it starts explaining things. Is that we really live in this magnificent universe, this highly complex, elastic universe where you are this intelligent being who is limited by yourself because you don't want to become a calmer, better person, but within the parameters that you're allowed to, you're able to travel through the data or show up in different environments or create environments within the spheres that you are allowed to travel. And you are immortal and you can look the way you want. So when you think of that, your idea of yourself and what hopefully is your idea not only of yourself but of all those around you, that they're all struggling spirits trying to improve and they're not really quite sure how to improve and things are happening to them and they go, well, why is this happening to me? And the answer, of course, is past life wrongs. But then, I have people ask me like, well, how can I learn from my past lives when I don't remember it? Well, the answer is the spirit world is extremely intelligent and they know how to elicit different stimuli for you to go through the different analysis of your character to modify those parts of the characters of your character where you did wrong things. They are, to us, they're just complete geniuses. We're like 5-year-olds looking at our parents thinking, how do they do that? Right. And they're so tall. No, that's why. Okay. This is simply Luciani. Spirits in my dolls are good, just not highly elevated, but still they help me with skills they had when alive. So again, so what they are is they are useful tools in which you concentrate on that doll, and it helps you communicate to that spirit. And that spirit, like you said, not highly elevated. They're on the earth, and you should probably want to go through and really look at the different levels of spirits, and you can place them where they're at. And if they're trying to do good, and that's great. But that's why you need to read the medium's book and understand at what level they are, and make sure they're not masquerading as someone who you think they are, because they'll certainly do that. That's happened. I've seen that in spiritist mediums meetings. So and so you are medium, and most mediums are on earth because you've accepted a mission to help and to assist others. And I know it's very difficult. A lot of mediums have extremely difficult lives because they are talking to the spirit world. Some people believe them. Some people believe that you're just hallucinating. You don't know what you're doing. I believe you. And so it's not easy. And then it's also not easy to know when spirits talk to you, is their advice useful? Is it going to help somebody? Or is it just, kind of trying to be amusing with you? That's why the best thing is for you to elevate yourself spiritually. And I guarantee you that you'll have higher spirits help guide you in the way that you want to go if that is your wish and desire. But I would say, since you are a medium, you have some mission on Earth to help many people, probably, and I would recommend you put the effort to uh, to accomplish that. It's a wonderful gift. I don't have that gift. I can feel the presence of spirit sometimes, uh, but as far as anything else, I don't have that gift. And I know some people don't like that gift. In fact, Chico Xavier, one time there was a guy in Chico's audience, and he asked him a question, and he said, and he was like, I think about 20 at the time, and he asked Chico, who's a wonderful, great medium in Brazil, and Chico said, "Why are you asking me that? You're a medium. You can find out." And he goes, "Oh no, I'm afraid of all that. I don't want to know." He goes, "Well," he goes, "at some time you will." And so 20 years later, he made the decision that he was going to explore. He went to a Spiritist center, right? He started learning and became a very proficient medium. But so, I mean, it's not easy. I've had this other woman come and talk to me like, "Oh, I'm seeing these objects, these weird misshapen objects, and some of them look good, some look bad, and it's like it was like her mediumistic powers like switched on at a certain age, which can happen, and she was shocked, like, what the heck is that?" And that's why people need knowledge. People need to read and study, because the more you understand that there are spirits out there in the lower zone, and a lot of spirits in the lower zone are perfectly nice people. A lot of them aren't so nice people. A lot of them can mean you harm. And that's why you have to filter everything through your conscience. When you have an idea, filter it through your conscience. Make sure it's morally upstanding and that you don't feel stressed about it. And that's important. They also say I see orbs sometimes, and those are spirits around who you're not seeing their how they want you to see their physical representation. You're seeing their energy, and those are spirits. Or they also could just be collectives of thoughts and astral plane things around you that could happen, but usually they're spirits. It depends. I know. I don't know if you've seen this, but I know a person that has seen spirits, and what he says is they look like high speed robots, and because the spirits will say it's like, first of all, they'll say it's hard to communicate with you humans because you're so slow, and we have to like word one word, then the next word. It's like in the spirit world is like the temple is just boom, boom, boom. They move fast, and he says they'll just move around like really fast, and he'll just see this motion. It was like this high speed film of people moving, and really interesting medium. In fact, he worked at this place for the government where kind of like a social security office, I think, or something like that, where people would come up and ask questions. And then sometimes he'd be sitting there answering questions, and his coworker would go, uh, "There's nobody there. That's a spirit you're talking to, right?" Because he'd think he was talking to a person. God bless him. In fact, that's why you'll find these really powerful mediums like Chico Xavier and Devaldo Franco. Um, they won't drive. They cannot drive because spirits will just walk around the road because they're not worried about cars. Those cars will go right through them, and of course, they'll think they're spirits. They'll think they could be people. Like Chico, one time, this guy came up to Chico. He said, "Oh, hi, Chico," and then Chico said, "Oh, I'm glad you brought your mother with you." And he said, "No, no, my mother died." He goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But his mother was right next to him, but she was a spirit. And he got to the point where he couldn't tell the difference. And then he went up to this one woman and goes, "Are you alive?" Right? So it's hard on that one. So, yeah. Okay. Then you say, simply Luciana, I see orbs by my altar. Beautiful. Yeah. So those are probably uh, spirits. It could be the spirits that inhabit some of your dolls that are there, and want to show you that they are with you. And my Mesa Blanca track spirits, mostly they ask me if they are dead. Okay. So yes, and then yes. So this is exact. So you are on a mission. You are helping people now. And I've been in meetings where people say, "Am I dead?" Right? And because they are. This is where. So this is where you can believe that we are who we are when we pass over. If we were a criminal or a pickpocket, we're still kind of that morally depraved person when we pass over. We don't turn into these beautiful angels, all knowing. And what happens when people die is they think, oh, I'm still here because they feel their paraspirit, right? And they don't know they're dead. In fact, one medium told me that she knew when she was in the spirit world, one of her tasks was helping people who didn't know they were dead to go home, right? So whatever, like no solar or whatever, so they seek spiritual help. So yes, so probably what's happening, I would bet you, is these spirits are attracted to you because they are given inspiration from other higher spirits to talk to you. So, and because when these spirits don't think that they're dead, they don't really can't see a higher spirit. It's like, well, if they don't believe it can happen, um, then they don't see a higher spirit helping them. But what the higher spirit can is inspire them to come to someone like you, and they'll feel more comfortable talking to a physical human. And then you said, yeah, Mesa Blanca practice helps them cross over. So that's a wonderful thing. So you are helping people, and then so I don't know how. Um, I'm sure there's many different ways to help them cross over, but it's important for them to know that they are loved and for them to think good thoughts. And also, I'm sure a lot of times people are trapped on the earth because their families are thinking so much of them that they are trapping them on the earth. I've read about this quite often. Is someone passes over, a nice aunt, uncle, grandma, whatever, and the family's so despondent, say, "No, we need you here." Well, those thoughts are like tentacles emotionally pulling that person back to their house, and yet they feel like they're not alive, and um, that they should go somewhere else, but emotionally they're being pulled back by their house. So what you say is they're attracted to the candle because the mesa is a portal, becomes like a lighthouse. I'm sure that's part of it, but I would, my opinion, and I could be wrong, is that they are attracted to you as a medium and they are sent there. It wouldn't make a difference if you had a candle or a little statue or you were just with a bowl of water, that the higher spirits are sending these spirits to you because you can help them. Um, that's my opinion. You can certainly disagree with me, but I think that whatever you have on the table is something for, if it helps you, that's all that matters. But I believe that these spirits are attracted to you because you're open minded. You're bringing them in by your thoughts, and then other spirits are saying, "Go see this person," they may not even know they're being thought. Yes, and then you say, "I also become a lighthouse." Absolutely, you are the attract. You are the attraction. That's what I'm saying. The physical objects around you may help you focus and to focus on your job at hand, but you are the attraction. And those people are being sent to you by other spirits who they say, "Oh, this person helps." That's why I think you can do more. The more you read and study, and the more you understand different spirits, and maybe you do already. I don't know, and I apologize for saying things that you already know. You can be even of more help. But I'm sure that you must feel good being of help as you are now, because you're doing a really great service. In fact, in Spirit Centers, there are mediums meetings just to help spirits who are having hard times. Uh, as an example, I was in a mediums meeting. I'm not a medium, right? I was sat at the back of the wall, And this woman came on and said, it goes, I'm in pain. My husband was cruel. He misshapen my face with a hot iron, and I hate him. I just hate him. And then another trance medium was communicated to by her husband and says, I apologize. I don't know how to get her over them. I feel so sorry. It was a different era and time. So this is probably quite a few, 100 years ago that, a man owned his wife, and I didn't know what to do. And I just want her forgiveness. And so these two have been trapped in this cycle, right? He's begging for forgiveness, but she just is in this loop of hatred, which who can blame him or blame her, I should say. But the spirits were, the mediums in the meeting were trying to say, you need to forgive, you've got to move on, right? So people are trapped like this. And so then my spirit guide helps them cross over, take them to the spirit rehab school. Exactly. That's exactly what Spiritism says. So then what they do is these spirits will talk to you, and you'll get them to I don't know, a good way of saying it, get them to raise their eyes a little bit, right? Because the reason the spirit guide or their guardian angels may have had them talk to you is to get them in a state where they can open their mind up to see the spirit guide who comes to help them. Because before, they probably could not see that person, or they did not respond to whatever they're trying to do. So they had to enlist you as one human to another human, because they thought they were still physically incarnated, say, hold on a bit. You got to open your eyes. There's a spirit guide next to you. Oh, there's a spirit guide next to me. And then they see it, right? Then they see him or her, whoever that is. So that's the link. That's what you're doing. And you go, then you say, there really is a spirit school on the other side. And not only is there a spirit school, there are spirit schools. And I talk about this, which is so. And I'm glad you said that, because most people have they have this fuzzy idea of heaven, that when we die, and if we've been good, we're in this Elysian fields, and we can sit back and enjoy, right? Of course, no, spirits have work to do. The reason that we're on earth to improve our character and our personality is for us to be able to be given more and more power and attributes for us to help other spirits. So there are different levels of heaven. Now, the spirits who talk to the Reverend G. Valen say there's 10 levels, but they say other people say there's other levels. Essentially is this: when you go on a level of heaven, there are whatever like city or outpost you are, there are schools to help you start learning. But then there are major, let's say, centers of education, universities on each level. And you go to this and you learn more. And it's not like just book learning. You go on missions to Earth or other places. Now, at the same time, hopefully you're improving your moral and your spiritual quotient. Now, that's why people come back to Earth and incarnate, is to make their personality better. You don't come back to Earth to be a genius or to learn something, about the spirit universe per se. It's really, you're here to modify your character and your personality. When you are ready, there's no time frame, but when you are ready, you go to the next level of heaven, and you go to more schools and higher level schools. Just like on Earth, you go nursery school, elementary school, middle school, high school, right? College, post-grad. It goes on. And you have to balance your knowledge and wisdom with your spirituality and your morality in order to rise in these levels. Now, when you rise in the level, you're not just given a piece of paper, right? Oh, I got this piece of paper. No, you are given more power, more attributes, more ability to tie into the universal database, right? You're on some levels you've learned. You learn how to connect to that. You learn how to see the future. You learn how to see other levels. You learn all of that. So this is a constant learning process. So I hope that helps people today. And let me just tell you one, if you really want to get like an overview of everything I said, I would recommend my book, The Spirit Realm, Spiritism Revealed the Reality of Our Existence. I really take everything of all the other 14 books I've written, and I try to break it down into this is the spirit realm, and this is, this is your physicalness, this is how you ascend, all sorts of information. Let me try this. And oh, yeah, here we go. We remove attached spirits from people and send them to school. Exactly. So spirits love to attach themselves to people. Let's say a mother dies and she doesn't want to leave her husband or her kids, and they attach themselves to people or objects. They can also attach to objects. And you get them to say, you're not really effective, because I'm sure you're trying to talk to these people and they don't know what you're saying. But if we can send you to spirit school and you can learn something, you can actually be effective, and you can ask permission to come back and help those people in a much better manner. So that's kind of the logic with their spirit guide, I'm sure. You may have heard this, right? Is they're given a good reason, right? They're not going to be forced, right? Your free will is always respected in the spirit universe. So, but I'm sure what you're doing is you're reasoning with them and saying, well, how much help are you doing? You're basically a bystander. But in your spirit guide, and maybe you too, is saying, if you really want to help, we will help them. We'll send people to help them while you're learning, and you do well, and you'll be much more efficient. You can really help them. Yeah, there's the answer is yes. So this is why. See, so all these things you probably thought that other people didn't know about. There's a whole section of people and books written about that what you really knew about. So it shows you that I'm hoping that I am enforcing your own beliefs. Yeah, and we tell them they can help better from the light. Exactly. And you see this all the time is they will be taught how to help better, right? They'll be taught how to help better when they're in the spirit world. They will go through these things. And in fact, there was one section in one of the books, How We Are Guided by Spirits, where this lady, oh, I have to help my family. And they go, look, and she was in one of these spiritual levels, and she's in the school, but she just couldn't concentrate. She just wanted to help her family. So let's go down and visit your family. And they let her visit her family. And they said, okay, try and talk to someone. And they go, they can't hear me, right? And I'm not doing any good. Well, look, what we'll do is we'll send other spirits who are trained to come and try and help your family while you go back up and you learn what you need to learn. And then you can come down and watch them and get better and better at it. So they're always thinking of how to help you, how to get what you wish. Sometimes they'll tell you, no, you need to be away from your family for a while for this and that reason, right? There's always different scenarios. But that's why when bad things happen, it's not punishment, it's educational, right? It's in order to elicit stimuli from us that we needed to learn. And from that, I've actually gone over my time. I want to thank everybody for your questions. They're great questions. And again, if you want to contact me, go to my blog, nwspiritism.com. Go to the About Me contact section. Send me an email with your email, and then we can get in touch. Anyway, I want to say, God bless everyone. God bless.